Hare Krishna. Okay, I will start the session with prayers. Dhasya Bhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmetam Yena Jasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Apagadamahim Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagratam Sahana Raghunatanitam Kamsadevam Sadhaitam Savadhutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Ragana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha Namo Shripadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tiname Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Veshatayane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. So we will continue with the 5th chapter. So we can conclude the 5th chapter today. And we will be starting from Shloka 21. So in the recent verses, shlokas, we were talking about the Lord is actually talking about different characteristics of one who has attained the spiritual realization. That means the vision of one who is a gnani or a pure devotee. So the Lord said that he is able to see every living entity with equal vision, because he sees the Paramatma, the super soul within every living entity's heart, sitting along with the Jivatma, that is the Paramatma. So therefore, one who is fixed in this knowledge of the relationship of the living entity or the Jivatma, the Paramatma, and this material nature in which we are all existing. We are existing in the material nature. There's another nature in the spiritual world, that is spiritual nature. So one who knows this relationship, he becomes enlightened, and therefore he attains liberation or mukti. And a Krishna conscious person, that means one who is always conscious of the Supreme Lord. That means one who sees the Supreme Lord in everything and acts in that consciousness. So such a person can enjoy unlimited pleasure within himself. He doesn't have to depend on anything or anyone for that bliss. So therefore, how is he able to access that unlimited pleasure? It is by fixing his mind or his consciousness on Krishna. Because just like we when we connect to a plug point, that means we are getting access to the main AC, or a main power supply, right? So then we can also draw the power from that, as in whichever appliance is plugged in, it will draw how much ever is required for its working, or whatever is its capacity. Similarly, jivas also, when they are connected to the Supreme Lord, who is the source of all pleasure and all happiness, they're also able to draw so much happiness or pleasure from that Supreme Lord, but according to their own individual capacities. So such a person who's connected to the Supreme Lord, he's always busy. So generally people think, one who is a spiritual person or a self-realized person, he'll only be inactive or inert. He'll be sitting in some place and meditating. But actually, pure devotee of the Lord, he goes beyond that. Now that he has realized his own relationship with the Lord and the relationship that all the living entities have, he feels so much compassion for all the living entities that he cannot waste a single minute. without serving the Lord. And at the same token, he's also always working for the welfare of all the living entities. Of course, his position is much higher than that of just a normal philanthropist. It is not that, because just philanthropy or social workers, social service workers, they're all good. They're all selfless. Undoubtedly, there is at least some amount of selflessness, but still their selflessness is not complete, because they may be acting for the welfare of only certain set of living entities. It may only be for human beings, or it may only be for certain pet animals, and that too only benefiting their body, not beyond that. So a real philanthropist, a real social worker, a person who does real social service, he actually does those activities which benefit all living entities across all species. Just like, for example, by doing Harinam Sankirtan, so we are able to purify devotees, go out, actually, out on the streets, out on different, some people even go out to the villages, different parts of the city, wherever, just to benefit other souls. Just by hearing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the spiritual vibration, all the living entities are getting purified, they are getting benefited. Not just the human beings, even the birds, beasts, animals, or even the microorganisms which are in the air, which we cannot even perceive of. So they are all getting purified and benefited. So there is no other better social service than performing bhakti, especially performing Harinam Sankirtan. There is nothing that can ever equal that. So therefore, so emphatically, all scriptures have proclaimed, especially in Kali Yuga, that to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our leader, has shown us the way how to do it. So now we will start with the Shloka 21. Bahya Sparsheshva Sattatma Vindatyatmanyas Atmani Yat Sukham Sabrahma Yoga Yuktatma Sukham Makshayam Ashnute. So Lord is now continuing the characteristics of liberated person. He says, Bahya Sparsheshu Asakta Atma. Asakta means one who is not attached. To what? He is not attached to the external sense pleasure. So this is the main difference between one who is a real spiritualist and one who is a materialist. Because a materialist, he is only into satisfying his senses. His eyes are demanding, I want to see something nice. Then tongue is demanding, I want to taste something nice, or speak something what I like, or even the sense of touch or the ears and so on. They're always demanding, and he's trying to satisfy those demands, but they are never to be satisfied. So this is external sense pleasure. So obviously it is through the external body and the senses. But a spiritualist or a transcendentalist, what does he do? So he is not attached to this external sense pleasure, but Vindati Atmani Yat Sukham. Vindati means he enjoys. How does he enjoy? He enjoys within his own self. That means it's not inside the body, it's not inside the mind, it's actually within his soul, on a soul level, spiritual level. He enjoys that happiness. Which happiness? Sa Brahma Yoga Yuktatma. Because he is connected to Brahma or the Supreme Lord, Yukta Atma means connected. Sukham Akshayam Ashnute. He enjoys. Sukham is happiness. Akshayam, unlimited. Ashnute means enjoys. So like I already gave the example of how when an appliance is connected to the AC mains, then it gets unlimited, literally unlimited supply of electrical energy. That means it can keep drawing how much ever it wants. Similarly, um, Krishna conscious person who is connected to the Supreme Lord through bhakti, he can enjoy unlimited pleasure because now he's connected to the Supreme unlimited source of pleasure, that is Sri Krishna himself. So even the Vedas and talk about this. So they say, what is the nature of Supreme Lord? He is Raso Vaisaha. He is embodiment of all sorts of enjoyment. Rasa means enjoyment, pleasure. All sorts of enjoyment, all sorts of pleasures that we can experience in this world, or which we have never experienced also. In fact, whatever we can experience in this world, it's only a perverted reflection, just like a mere shadow. So we can imagine what the real object will be like, the real enjoyment, how much more satisfying, how much, and it is unlimited at that. Next shloka, number 22. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukhayonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddhaha. Now, on the other, so here he's saying an intelligent person. Buddhaha means one who's intelligent. Nateshu ramate buddhaha. Ramate means takes delight or enjoys. Nateshu. They don't enjoy in those matters. What are those matters? So, the intelligent person, he does not try to derive pleasure from this external sense enjoyment. So senses, like I said, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, all these, they want to enjoy, but their enjoyment, when we give them their objects of enjoyment, that means, for example, when the tongue needs something nice to eat, when we give them, the tongue may hardly be satisfied for a little bit. Then again, it will start demanding. So similarly, and it is not only that the happiness derived from this is limited and very, very much temporary, but it will also become a source of misery. This is the nature of these sense enjoyments. Therefore, here Krishna is saying, Yehi, certainly those samsparshaja bhoga. So, what is the bhoga? Means enjoyment. What kind of enjoyment? That enjoyment that we get by the contact with the senses. So, it is just a kind of a sensation. That's it. So, just for that sensation, materialistic people, they have dedicated the whole life, and it is when we really see things from the perspective of Bhagavad Gita, this is actually really truth. Then we understand how insignificant and how really it's not at all substantial, this kind of a life, because it is all about just that sensation. Tongue has that nice sensation. Oh, we work so hard for it. Then eyes may get little nice sensation when it sees something nice. So this is what Krishna is talking about. When the objects of the senses come in contact with the senses, then we get some kind of a sensation. That we call as enjoyment. Actually, that's not really enjoyment. So, but unfortunately, it has a beginning and it has an end. Adi, anta. Adyantavanta kaunteya. So he says, such pleasures that is derived from these senses, they have a beginning and an end. and they are and they are actually sources of misery. Actually, they give more than happiness, which will be very, very temporary, but they also give us a lot of misery, because just for that little bit of a sensation, we have to work very hard for it. In one, if we take in that sense, in many other ways also, they give us lot of uh, pain, because if someone enjoys eating sweets, uh, initially it may be nice, but later on they may get diseases, they may become diabetic, just to give an example. So this is what happens. They will, this kind of enjoyment comes with its own price to pay. Therefore, it becomes a source of um, misery, or it gives a lot of problem. Therefore, those who are intelligent, they know that this is not even real enjoyment. This is simply a temporary sensation, and it is not real. It is temporary, and it's going to give me a lot of problem. And in order to do that, in order to get this sense enjoyment, one has to work very hard. At the end of it, you get a lot of pain from that. So therefore, one who is really intelligent, he can see through all this, and then he stays away from this. Why? Because he knows that, he understands very well that he is, first of all, not these senses, nor is he this body, nor is he this mind or intelligence. He is the spirit souls. So just like I've given the example earlier, we have discussed that, how there is a driver sitting in the car and there is a passenger. So if something bad happens to the car, that's not going to affect the passenger so much, because he is not the car, obviously. Let's say the car is hit by another passing vehicle, the passenger is not going to feel the pain. Similarly, if the car is, maybe decorated, or maybe nicely painted or something, that's not the same as honoring the passenger, or giving him, some kind of a nice, makeup or what, or decoration. So therefore, the passenger understands and obviously knows that, oh, all this is happening to the car. Why should I be disturbed by it or be happy about it? Similarly, one who is really intelligent, a self-realized person, he knows that all these sensations that these senses uh, experience as happiness or enjoyment, I don't have anything to do with this. I really don't have anything to do with this, because I am spirit. I'm a spirit soul. Of course, it's easier said than done, because it really, it is not like a, it doesn't happen in a fraction of a second. It's not like switching on or off this kind of bodily consciousness. But because we have been associated with this kind of a body, lifetime after lifetime, it will take a lot of purification. So then gradually the consciousness of the soul will start withdrawing itself from these pangs of these body, or whatever you call it, from the grip of these bodies. Slowly, 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 because of the purification, an enlightened person, he will be able to detach himself completely from this body, and he is able to see from uh, within the body. He can understand, now I'm a separate person, I'm not this body, and therefore he can say like that, and therefore he will not take part in this kind of a sense enjoyment. And because he knows now, as a spirit soul, his real enjoyment is in doing bhakti seva to the Lord. Now, what has bhakti got to do with this, right? So Bhagavatam takes on that matter in much more detail. So it says, Savai pumsam paro dharma yatho bhakti radhokshache. Ahetuki apratihata atma suprasidati. The only way Jivatma, the soul, can become happy is by doing uninterrupted and unconditional loving service to its master or Paramatma or Sri Krishna. Then it becomes happy. And why is that? Because that is its natural dharma. That is its natural. It's that is its nature. Because it's like fish out of water. By being in this bodily engagement, this Jivatma is not able to enjoy or able to understand this real happiness. Just like when much ever luxuries or pleasures we may give a fish, but if it is outside water, it can barely even survive. It's going to die. So similarly, a spirit soul also, it needs spiritual food. How much ever we feed the senses and the body and the mind, this poor living entity, it has something else as its own food. Another popular story is always given as an example. So there's once a bird was put in a cage, and the owner will keep taking so much care of the cage, completely ignoring the needs of the bird. So he's decorating the cage of the bird, he's cleaning it, he's painting it, and whatnot. But the poor bird is crying. He doesn't pay attention to the bird, doesn't give it food or water. Then what will happen? How much ever he decorates the body, the bird is not going to be happy. It's not even able to survive. Similarly, even for a conditioned soul or souls which are engaged within this body. So Krishna uses this term again and again in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Dehi. What do we mean by Dehi? Dehi is the living entity or the Jivatma who has gotten this body. Sorry, anyone had any question? Think someone tried to talk. Okay, so one who has this material body, he is called the Dehi. So therefore, a Jivatma is like that bird in the cage. He needs his spiritual food. What is that spiritual food? It is bhakti, Krishna bhakti. What is Krishna bhakti or bhakti? Bhakti can only apply to Vishnu or Krishna, not any other devata. By definition, bhakti can only be applied to Paramatma. Every Jivatma has its own relationship with Paramatma and its own connection with its Paramatma. That connection or that relationship is that of the seva, or that seva is called as bhakti. So what is that? How can we serve Paramatma then? What is that seva? So that also Bhagavatam explains, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoha Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. These are the 9 main types of activities of bhakti. When this is done, then the soul will be very happy. Now one may ask that, okay, then if that is the case, we are all spirit souls, then why don't we get so much enjoyment then that, if we are able to do that 24/7 all the time, if we are able to do these bhakti activities, that means, whatever the Shastra says is correct. But why aren't we able to do that all the time? We again go back to other materialistic activities. That is because whatever the Shastra is saying is true. That is because we don't have that taste for it yet. So the more we are purified, the more we would like to engage in those activities of bhakti because of our very long association with this body and the senses. It will take time for the mirror of our heart to be cleaned. So by doing all these activities of bhakti, the more our heart is cleansed, the more we can get pleasure from these activities of bhakti. All right, so then, but one who has already come to that spiritual platform, therefore he is able to get unlimited pleasure just by these spiritual activities of bhakti. And for that, he doesn't need anything else. He doesn't have to depend on anything material. Therefore, he does not take pleasure in activities of the senses. Okay, next shloka, number 23. शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुं प्राक्शरीरविमोक्षणात् कामक्रोध कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगं स युक्तः स सुखी नरः शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुं. So now Krishna is saying, all right, this is, he spoke about one who is already self-realized, but one who is trying to be self-realized. Even for him, let's say if he has already not come to that platform, but if he is able to tolerate the demands of these senses, even before dying, okay, even when he is in this very same body, in this very life, if he is able to control these demands of the senses and not give in to them, and if he is able to tolerate, different desires, how they are pushing us one after other to do this, do that, get this, get that. And if he's able to check the force of those desires and anger. Now, anger also not very easy to control. Therefore, all this, if one is able to tolerate all these, then, generally people in this world, they think, by giving in to all these, by actually satisfying all the demands of the senses, by running after all our desires one after another and trying to realize them and trying to satisfy them, that is how one can become happy. But the Lord is saying actually the opposite. It's quite the opposite. He's saying instead of trying to satisfy all those desires, instead of trying to satisfy all the demands of the senses, if we are able to tolerate them, tolerate the desires, tolerate the demands of the senses, and tolerate anger, actually such a person will be actually happy. It is very, very true. In the second chapter, Krishna gives beautiful insights about all this. In some of the verses, he says, आपोर्यमाणम् अचलप्रतिष्ठं समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् कामायन् प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी. Only a person who is able to tolerate these kind of desires, constantly desires keep coming. It's not that someone who starts practicing spiritual life, immediately all the desires will be gone. It will come. But then one should be able to tolerate them and not give in to them. Because why? Because Krishna is saying now, let's say if someone is trying to give in to them, trying to satisfy them one after another, that such a person can never be happy. Because why? Because it's like a mad goose chase. Everyone probably has heard this phrase, because it is only a person can only be chasing after their dreams, chasing after their desires, but there's no end to it. We will be frustrated. We may not even be able to accomplish all our desires or dreams. What to speak of satisfying them? But on the other hand, a person who is able to tolerate them, he gives an example how, just like an ocean has so many rivers flowing into it constantly. But do we see that the ocean is disturbed by that? No. It barely makes any difference to the ocean, because the ocean is in itself so huge and so deep. What can these tiny rivers do to the ocean? Nothing. Similarly, when our consciousness is so big, when it's completely evolved, it has blossomed by the bhakti, these tiny, insignificant material desires can barely disturb us. Then such a person, obviously, he's not disturbed because his mind has now become very calm and peaceful. And but those who are trying to go behind such desires, oh, it's pitiable, really. And because we see in this today's world, people literally go mad trying to satisfy these kind of desires, and some go to such an extent, sorry to say, even some students who are not able to achieve whatever they desire, they even go to the extent of committing suicide, taking their own lives. So this is the warning again and again we get from the Lord in Gita. So we should not give in to all these. We should be tolerant. Then we become happy no matter what comes in life, because we are not dependent on these temporary situations of this life, but we are now completely connected with the Supreme Lord and bhakti. That will not change. That doesn't need any external factors, or it's independent really. That is why Shuddha Bhakti is ahituki apratihata. When really one achieves that platform of pure devotional service, Shuddha Bhakti, then he is completely satisfied and extremely blissful, because that is completely independent of any kind of a material factor. So it is continuous, and it is uninterrupted, and it is unconditional. So there, such pure devotees will continuously enjoy the bliss of devotional activities. Okay, next shloka, number 24. Yuntah sukhontararamah tathantar jyotirev evayah sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto dhigacchati. Now, he goes further to say, one whose happiness is within, yaha antah sukhaha, yontah means one who has found that happiness within. What is that happiness within? Because Jiva and Paramatma both are inside, they're not outside. So when the Jiva is connected to Paramatma in Bhakti, that is the highest expression of happiness. Antararamaha means aramaha, ramaha means to enjoy. He is enjoying inside, internally within. Tatha antarjyoti eva yaha, because he is aiming. So he's all his activities, all his life's desires, or his life's endeavors is all going inward. It's not flowing outward. So these are all not only, it's not just figurative, but actually, because when our energy and our consciousness is all outward, external, because of the senses are external, it is on through the external body, we are trying to enjoy these sensory pleasures. So that is, so it is outward, external. But our consciousness now should go inward, because our soul, our real, the identity, being Jivatma, is actually inside the heart, and Paramatma is also inside the heart. Therefore, we should go inward. So, Antarjyoti evayaha sayogi brahma nirvanam. Then such a person is really, he's actually, who is aiming inward, he is a real perfect yogi. Such a person, he is liberated in the Supreme, then ultimately he also attains the Supreme Lord. So yogi Brahma Nirvanam. Nirvanam means Brahma Nirvanam means liberation from this material existence. Then Brahma Bhuta Adhigachati means he attains, being self-realized, he attains the Supreme Lord. So when our energy, our consciousness, and our intelligence, mind, everything is focused only on the externals, that means external senses and the sense pleasures, there is hardly any chance for us to think about our internal requirements, which is bhakti. Internal requirement means requirements of the soul. Like I said, how the bird in the cage, it's crying for spiritual food. Similarly, the jivatma inside our heart is like that bird within the cage of our body. So that is also always yearning for spiritual food, which is what? Krishna Kirtan, Krishna Katha. Like we are discussing now, this is Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, then chanting of the holy names of the Lord, all this. When this happens, then the Atma is very happy. So this is the internal happiness. It has got nothing to do with the external senses. So therefore, a yogi is not busy in trying to satisfy his external senses, because his now focus is on the inner spiritual platform. Next shloka number 25. Labhante brahma nirvanam rishah kshina kalmashaha छिन्नद्वैधायतात्मानः sarvabhuta rataha. Labhante means achieve. They achieve. What do they achieve? Brahma Nirvanam. That means liberation, spiritual liberation, or attaining the Supreme. Rishaya Kshina Kalmashaha. So who achieve really this kind of spiritual liberation? It is the rishis. Who are the rishis? It is those mystics, or it is those people who are active on the spiritual platform, who are active within. So their mind, their aim, their consciousness, it is going inward. So such people being purified means kshina kalmashaha means they are purified of all their sins. Chinna dvaida. Chinna means cut. Dvaidha means dvi means dualities. What kind of dualities we always face in this world? This world is full of dualities. Sometimes we are happy, sometimes we are sad. Sometimes there is hot, sometimes it's cold. So all these dualities are only because of the perception of these senses and the mind. That's why Krishna says in the second chapter, Matra sparshastu kaunteya, shita ushna sukha dukkhada, agama apayina anitya, tam stitikshasva bharata. So Krishna keeps telling tolerate, tolerate. So what should we tolerate? And why? Why should we tolerate? So he's already spoken about that in the second chapter, because so there are 3 levels. That's why 3 levels of happiness. So Krishna is saying matra sparsha stu kaunteya, shita ushna sukha dukkha da. So on a sensory level, so on a external bodily level, so there is heat and cold, and these kind of bodily pains and pleasures. So this one has to tolerate. These are direct sensory pains and pleasures. Then there is one other level. Then Shita Ushna, okay, that is done. Hot and cold, these kind of bodily pleasure and pain. Sukha Dukkha, then next level is the mind. Now, will the mind feel the heat or cold? No, but the mind feels happiness and sadness, Sometimes we are happy, sometimes we are sad. Sometimes it may be directly because of the sensory pleasure and pain, even the mind may feel, or it may be even uh, other than that. Sometimes, one may be happy because someone has praised us, one may be sad because someone has criticized us. So, this is another level of pleasure and pain on a mental level. Shita Ushna Sukha Dukkada Agama Paina Anityastam Stiti Kshasva Bharata. So there are all these kinds of different um, pains and pleasures. But if we tolerate, why should we tolerate? If we don't tolerate, what will happen? We will get stuck at those levels. Or if we are trying to fix the pain of the bodily and the sensory pleasures of the pains, then we are only focusing on the senses and the body. If we are trying to fix the situation on the mental level of happiness and sadness, then we are stuck at the mental level. We are focusing on the mind and its needs. What about the soul? Then there is also the ego. So ego, that's what when someone praises and someone is criticizing, different, all these kind of dualities. Then what about, these are all not the pains or pleasures perceived by the soul at all, the jivatma. So jivatma, for it actually there is no dualities. Jivatma is free because it is spiritual. There is absolutely no dualities for anything that is spiritual, either for the Jivatma or the Paramatma, because by nature they are only Ananda, Anandamayobhyasat. So the Supreme Lord, his entire form is made of, it is constituted with Sat Chit Ananda. So Ananda Gnana Deha, his whole form is made of bliss and knowledge. Then where is the question of any pain or pleasure or such dualities? It is all happiness, bliss through and through. Similarly, even the Jivatma. So that is our real nature. But if we are only stuck in these levels of consciousness, then we cannot even perceive, we cannot even come to the level of soul. Therefore, Krishna tells again and again, we have to tolerate. And the more we get purified, the more we are able to perceive the soul's happiness. That means we are able to become happy when we do activities of bhakti. The more we are able to relish the activities of bhakti, that means the more we are getting purified. There is no doubt about it. So that is why when one comes to the complete spiritual platform, when who is completely purified of all contaminations, means sins, whatever sins we perform, it is because of that we are still having these kind of material inclinations. But once we are free from all that, we will take pleasure only in the spiritual activities now, because we are now in the spiritual platform. So our consciousness is only on the spiritual level. So Rishaya Kshina Kalmashaha. Therefore, the sages, they are now completely purified, and they are completely free from dualities. Therefore, Yatatmanaha, because they are still engaged in acts of self-realization, or purifying themselves. Of course, even the advanced souls, they don't feel they're very pure out of humility. They will always try to purify themselves. Then, therefore, they are able to cut all these dualities because they have freed themselves of all these different conceptions of bodily, mental conceptions. Sarvabhuta hite rataha. And once they have come to this platform of spiritual realization, now they understand, they are very compassionate because they understand that, see, now I'm able to enjoy the bliss. But what about all the other poor living entities? For them, he will try to elevate them. So therefore, he tries to engage them in bhakti. Therefore, he is always working for the welfare of all other living beings. Sarva bhuta hite rata. They're always engaged, actively engaged in helping others come to the platform of spiritual realization. So these are the real characteristics of one who is a spiritually realized soul. Okay, next shloka, number 26. Kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. Kama means desires, krodha, anger, vimuktanam, those who are, mukta means liberated, those who are free from all these desires and anger, of such saintly persons. Yata chetasa means, chetana means the mind or the consciousness. Now, such persons, they have complete control of their mind. Now they are not under the control of their mind. So in our case, people who are not self-realized, we why do we go behind materialistic pursuits, or why do we try to satisfy the demands of our the senses and the mind? Because actually we are under their control. Because one who is not purified, one who has no spiritual realization, especially materialistic people, they're completely under their senses control, because they are only on that platform. The more one is purified, the more one gains control of them. So one who is completely pure, he is completely able to control his mind. So that is the test, whether a person is actually liberated or not. So liberated persons, Krishna is also talking here that they are free from anger and all material desires, and they've completely controlled their mind. Abhito Brahma Nirvanam. Abhitaha means, for them it is assured that in the very near future. Now, what will happen? They will be liberated, and they will attain the highest state of realization, and they'll attain the Supreme Lord in the very near future. Vartate viditatmana. Vartate means, so Brahma Nirvanam vartate. So liberation is available for such people. Vidita Atmanam, for those who are self-realized. So it is rest assured, such people will attain the Supreme Lord in the very near future. So this is very encouraging. So therefore, if we work towards the Supreme goal and the Supreme Lord by following in the footsteps of such great personalities like Acharyas, then we will also be surely liberated. So of course, Krishna is also saying here that such people are free from, I'm just repeating for the benefit of everyone, such people are free from anger and material desires. So they are self-realized, they're also self-disciplined. That means it's not that they'll do all such good work or, bhakti just one day and another few days they'll not do. No, they're regulated, completely disciplined, and they're constantly endeavoring for perfection. They're always trying to become spiritually perfect. Such people are completely assured by the Supreme Lord for complete success. Okay, next two shlokas, 27, 28. Sparshan kritva bahirbahyam chakshushchaivaantare bhuvoh pranapanam samokritva nasabhyantara charinam. यतेन्द्रियमनो बुद्धिः मुनिर्मोक्षपरायणः विगतेच्छा भयक्रोधो यः सदा मुक्त एव सः. So now, the Lord is actually explaining how a self-realized person or a yogi, how is he really functioning while within this body. How is he able to keep his consciousness completely spiritual? So he's saying sparshan means all the sense objects, means the objects of eyes, objects of, eyes, ears, nose, all these sense. So sorry, the objects of all the senses. That means for the eyes it's the vision, and for ears it's the sound. For the tongue it's the taste. So all these. So one has to completely take out all these objects of the senses. So that means we should shut out all the senses from being engaged in their objects. That means I should not be seeing anything, at least externally. So that means I should be closed. And then ears also, we should make sure ears are not hearing anything, at least externally. That means one has to sit in a place which is free from noise. Then similarly, all these senses should be completely devoid of any kind of a distraction from their sense objects. So keeping the eyes shut and concentrating the vision between the two eyebrows. So after closing the eyes, we are still trying to focus our vision internally between the two eyebrows. Then we are suspending the pranapano samokritva. Now Krishna is beginning to give a hint of what the yoga process, the Ashtanga yoga process is like, by controlling the breath, controlling the senses. So what are we going to do then? Because previously he's gradually bringing the subject to this, because like I already said, a person whose senses are busy, engaged externally, that means his mind, his all his consciousness, everything is completely external. He cannot focus internally on the soul or Paramatma. Therefore, first of all, he has to cut the connection to the external world. So what he is doing? So this is how the yogis were doing. So the Krishna is now gradually taking us to the next chapter. In the 6th chapter, he speaks of all these concepts in detail, because he's talking about dhyana yoga, how a yogi would actually sit and meditate, in what posture, how to disengage the senses and all that. So here is just a introduction. So now he's disengaging all the senses and suspending the breath also. Pranapano samokritva nasabhyantaracharinau. So the inward air and the outward breaths should be also suspended within the nostrils. And why? What has that got to do with the mind? Someone may ask. So because there is a subtle connection between the mind and the physical body. That is the prana. So if we are able to control the prana vayu, the breathing, then the mind will also become calm, because there is a constant dialogue happening whenever the senses are engaged, because eyes are seeing something, then it will pass on the message to the mind, and the mind is also then processing it and thinking, oh, this is that, this is this, and all that, whatever, and the intelligence, of course. So, therefore, in order to keep the mind free from all this and to bring the mind to equilibrium, first of all, we have to disengage the senses. And then, now, after controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence, now the transcendentalist or the yogi, what does he do? Yatendriya mano buddhi. So mind, indriya, and the intelligence are now controlled, at least from the external distractions. Munir moksha parayanaha. So such a transcendentalist, he is moksha means liberation. Parayanaha means one who is aiming to become liberated. So he's constantly endeavoring to become liberated. Vigattecha bhayakrodho yah sada mukta eva saha. So such a person, he becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. So one who is in such a state of mind, yah sada mukta eva saha. One who is always in this kind of a state, he's certainly liberated. But the question is, how many of us can really sit in such a posture and sit in such a quiet place without any distraction, disengage our mind and the senses and the intelligence from their objects and concentrate our mind inward onto the soul and the spirit soul, so, and this Paramatma. So that is practically impossible. And therefore, Lord also tells us how can it be made possible in this age also. So lastly, he will conclude now this fifth chapter, the next shloka, number 29. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvalokam sahridam sarvabhutanam natvamam shantim ruchati. So for us anyway, it's not possible to do all this Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, because it's not so easy. It requires years and years and years of practice. And some yogis have been practicing for many lifetimes. But everybody can actually immediately also attain peace without even doing all this. And how is that? So Krishna is saying here, this is known as the peace formula, which our dear Srila Prabhupada actually, he appealed even to the United Nations. If this peace formula is applied in the society, in the world at large, then there will be absolutely no question of any fighting between the nations, or what to speak of all the world wars and all that. Because this shloka is really pivotal. It is very, very important. If we really stick to just these 3 points that Krishna is saying here, then automatically we will become peaceful and we will be Krishna conscious. What are those? To understand that bhokta means enjoyer or beneficiary. So Krishna is saying, by understanding that he, the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, he is the enjoyer of all yagnas, means all kinds of sacrifices, all kinds of puja, then tapasam, all kinds of austerities, penances. So he is actually, everything actually goes to him. Whether we know it or not, if we do it with knowledge, then we will get verily benefited. If we do it without knowledge, then we will get some benefit. So even for those people who worship different devatas, ultimately it goes to Krishna, all that worship, because he is the ultimate worshipable personality, even for the devatas. So if we were to offer, do some nevedya for the devatas are actually great devotees of the Lord. They will offer it to the Lord. So then finally, who is enjoying everything? It is the Supreme Lord. So why should we take that roundabout process? Why not offer it to him directly? Then he will be all the more pleased. Therefore, he's saying, I am the enjoyer of everything, all sacrifices and penances. And I am the controller, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. I am the controller of all planets, devatas, The entire creation rests on him. So he's the supreme controller. So he's the enjoyer, he's the supreme controller. And third point, Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. He is the dearmost well-wisher and friend of all living entities. And actually, this particular term, Suhrit, in Sanskrit, there are many words, synonyms for friend. There is Sakha, there is Mitra. But this Suhrit is actually the highest type of well-wishing friend. Because Suhrit means he's not just an ordinary friend who may come and go, who may wish us well, or who we may just have a nice chit chat with and go. No, Suhrit is that friend who is always wishing well for us, who's always concerned for our happiness, who's always looking out for us. Such a well-wisher friend. And when one understands that, not just for me or you all, or not just for this human society, for all living entities, and one who knows these 3 points, Natva, Mam, then he really understands the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And one who understands that, he becomes peaceful. Why now? Because if we understand that Krishna is the enjoyer of everything, that means I'm not the enjoyer. So if I lose something in life, if I gain something in life, it won't make any difference so much. Ideally, it should not make. If we really have understood, it will not make. Because that means we have become detached. Because now we have understood, everything belongs to Krishna. Why? Because he's the enjoyer. Also because he's the controller. He's in control of my whole life. Whatever happens, Krishna will take care of me. He's there. He's there for me. So it doesn't matter. Why? Because he is the dearmost well-wishing friend. He's in control, but he is our dearmost friend. He'll never let us down. Whatever happens, he's watching out for us. So why should we even bother about anything at all? So we are all so fortunate to have Sri Krishna. Actually, he is the Supreme Lord and he is our kind Father. Therefore, we have, if we come to the complete realization and understanding of this, then we will not suffer any material miseries. And that is the verdict of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So, this ends the 5th chapter. Thank you very much for patiently